The US and Israel unveiled their long-awaited Middle East peace plan, the Palestinian president calling it the slap of the century. The World Health Organization on the verge of declaring a global emergency as fears rise over China's new coronavirus. With more than 4,500 cases and over 100 deaths so far, multiple countries have started repatriating citizens. And Britain gives the green light for Chinese tech giant Huawei to play a limited role in building its 5G network. This despite US warnings the company could use it to spy on its mobile communications. Welcome to the France 24 newsroom in Paris. I'm Alexander Rawcott. Now, international reactions have begun pouring in to Donald Trump's Middle East peace plan, described by him as the deal of the century, but by the Palestinian president Mahmoud Abbas as the slap of the century. The deal was put forward by the US and Israeli leaders following talks where there was no Palestinian representation. Nonetheless, President Trump said it could succeed where decades of previous attempts had failed.
Under this vision, Jerusalem will remain Israel's undivided, very important, undivided capital. It's going to remain that way. This map will more than double the Palestinian territory and provide a Palestinian capital in eastern Jerusalem where America will proudly open an embassy. No Palestinians or Israelis will be uprooted from their homes.
Mr. President, because of this historic recognition, and because I believe your peace plan strikes the right balance where other plans have failed, I've agreed to negotiate peace with the Palestinians on the basis of your peace plan.
So far, the 80-page blueprint has received a lukewarm response from Europe and the United Nations and a furious rebuke from key Muslim countries. Angry Palestinians have been taking to the streets at what they see as a biased plan that should be consigned to, quote, the dustbin of history, dismissing the $50 billion of investment that are included for them within it. Well, earlier, France 24 spoke to the Palestinian diplomat Majed Bamia, who explained why the territories have played no part in the talks.
Even though the candidate Trump in the US presidential election spoke of recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, said that we decided to engage with President Trump. Even when he appointed a settler as his ambassador in Israel, we decided to ignore that. When he appointed people who have supported financially and politically settlements as his peace team, so-called peace team, we decided to continue engaging with him. But once he recognizes as president Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and ignores Palestinian rights and international law and Security Council resolution which have condemned Israeli annexation and rejected Israeli annexation of the city, and he decides to start his rolling of the plan on that basis, there was nothing to talk about with this American team. And then that was followed by closing our offices in Washington, cutting aid to UNRWA, cutting aid to the Palestinian people. Therefore, again, they were only interested in convincing the Israelis, and clearly they have succeeded in doing so, and they have united all Palestinians against this proposal, which is essentially an annexation plan rather than a peace plan.
It's not just Palestinians. In the United States, Democrats have also been tearing apart the plan. For more details on this, here's our Washington correspondent, Katavan Gorjestani.
Among the Democrats also were having very conflicting reactions. On one side, you had some cautious optimism regarding this deal from people like the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, who said that the fact that there was a possibility still for a two-state solution gave the Democrats some optimism, and that if there was a chance for peace, they were ready to take it, and that what they had seen initially seemed to be rather positive. But on the other hand, you had some Democrats, including Elizabeth Warren, who is, of course, running for the nomination of the Democratic Party for the presidential election. She dismissed this deal as a sham. She said that a deal that did not involve the Palestinians was definitely not diplomacy, and she rejected it as something of a deal between two men who are impeached and indicted. So really very distinctive and opposing views inside the Democratic Party reacting to this peace deal. Of course, the Republicans all hailed this huge step in history for the Middle East and for peace in the region.
The announcement by President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu comes at a time when both men are facing legal difficulties at home. The Israeli leader this Tuesday dropped his bid for immunity against corruption charges. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is currently embroiled in impeachment proceedings that he claims are politically motivated. The lead impeachment manager, Adam Schiff, said Trump's defense team is still reeling from the revelations in John Bolton's book. He's pushing for a fair trial.
We're going to get a fair trial, or are we not? Is the Senate going to hear from someone that every American now knows is a key and important witness on the most egregious of the president's conduct, or are we not? I don't see how the oath of impartiality can be interpreted any other way than demanding a fair trial that includes witnesses and documents.
We move on to other world news now, and France and many other nations have begun organising evacuations from parts of mainland China amid fears about the spread of the coronavirus, described by President Xi Jinping as, quote, a devil. More than 4,500 cases have been confirmed, with over 100 deaths so far. Some of the latest have been in Germany, where 4 colleagues from the same company were infected after one of them visited China. And with more international reactions, here's Maria Sofos.
While the majority of confirmed cases of coronavirus are in mainland China, the virus has spread to nearby countries such as Thailand and Japan, and further afield to France and the United States. Thailand has 14 confirmed cases, the highest number outside China. On Tuesday, France reported that a 4th person was infected with the disease.
We've just been informed of a 4th confirmed case. It's an elderly tourist. He's currently hospitalized in intensive care in Paris. His clinical condition is therefore severe. He requires intensive care. An epidemiological investigation is being launched, in particular regarding those he might have come into contact with.
France was the first European country to report imported cases of the new coronavirus. The first 3 were people who had recently been to China. Also on Tuesday, a German man who has not been to China was infected with the virus by a colleague visiting Bavaria from China, in what is believed to be the first human transmission on European soil. Countries are also concerned about the well-being of thousands of foreigners stuck in Wuhan, the Chinese city where the disease broke out. It has a population of 11 million and has been sealed off by the Chinese authorities in an attempt to curb the spread of the virus. A plane sent to Wuhan by the Japanese government landed late on Tuesday and was scheduled to repatriate Japanese nationals on Wednesday, the same day that a US aircraft is expected to bring American citizens back to their homeland. The United States, which so far has 5 confirmed cases of the new coronavirus, has urged Americans to reconsider or postpone travel plans to China because of the outbreak. The European Union will fly its citizens out this week, and South Korea is due to do the same.
Now, the World Health Organization has said most of the criteria have now been met for it to declare a global emergency. The UN agency that's sending a team to China to help deal with the outbreak said it's awaiting clear evidence of a sustained spread outside of China before doing so. Emerald Maxwell takes a look at just how serious the latest outbreak is.
It's spread to more than a dozen countries since the earliest reported case on December 1st. But so far, the new strain of coronavirus has a mortality rate of 3%, marginally higher than the seasonal flu. And like flu, those who have died are known to have been in poor health. Medical professionals say this could even be an overestimate.
The number of deaths is increasing, but more slowly than the growing number of cases. We think there are many more cases than those that have been confirmed, which automatically brings down the mortality rate, and it is very much less than what it was during the SARS outbreak.
Symptoms of novel coronavirus include cough and fever, and in more severe cases, pneumonia. And it's from the same family of viruses as SARS and Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, or MERS. So far, it appears to be more contagious and simultaneously less severe. It seems to be spreading more quickly than the 2002 SARS outbreak, which had a mortality rate of 10%. MERS, meanwhile, kills about 35% of infected people, but appears to be less easily passed from human to human. But this could change.
Coronaviruses are known to mutate easily and often, but we don't know the consequences of the mutation. The virus could become less virulent, it could disappear, but it could also become more virulent and easily transmitted from person to person.
SARS and MERS both originated in animals, but the source of novel coronavirus has yet to be identified, with a study published in The Lancet challenging the hypothesis that the first case came from a Wuhan seafood market.
Prime Minister Boris Johnson has granted Chinese tech giant Huawei a limited role in Britain's 5G mobile network, resisting US pressure to exclude the company from next-generation communications over fears that Beijing could use them to spy. With just days to go until Brexit, the UK is looking to strike important new trade deals with the United States and China and had to walk a tightrope to try to please both sides. Sam Bradpeace has the details.
Compromise.
Is Huawei a security risk?
The UK government has said it would allow Huawei to help develop 5G infrastructure in the country, but that its involvement would be limited to 35% of the market share. The company will not be allowed to supply sensitive core parts of the network and is banned from operating at nuclear and military facilities.
It is, of course, essential that these new networks are secure and resilient. That is why the government has undertaken a comprehensive review of the supply arrangements for 5G and full fibre networks. We would never take decisions that threaten our national security.
The government's decision was aimed at keeping the US and China happy. Trade deals with both countries will be essential for the UK post-Brexit. The US said it was disappointed at today's decision. Last week, Robert Strayer, a US government official, explained to France 24 that Huawei poses a security threat because of its links to the Chinese government.
So they will do exactly what the intelligence and security services want in China, when it's at their advantage to do so.
Beijing and Huawei have repeatedly rejected charges of espionage. In a statement, the company welcomed the British government's decision.
This evidence-based decision will result in a more advanced, more secure and more cost-effective telecoms infrastructure that is fit for the future. It gives the UK access to world-leading technology and ensures for a competitive market.
While Nokia and Ericsson are also involved in the development of the UK's 5G network, the telecoms industry had warned that banning Huawei outright would have cost the country billions of dollars and delayed the rollout of 5G.
Now, a royal scandal in Belgium has finally reached its conclusion after a 7-year-long legal battle. The 85-year-old king forced to admit he fathered a child out of wedlock in the 1960s. After decades of denials, Albert II's newly acknowledged daughter will not benefit from any royal titles, but she will now be included in the will. Yuka Roya tells us more.
For years, Albert II refused to acknowledge he had fathered a love child. But at 85, he has finally conceded, after a court-ordered DNA test linked the former King of Belgium with Delphine Boel.
King Albert is indeed the biological father of Delphine Boel.
It was in 2013, the year the monarch abdicated for health reasons, that Boel launched court proceedings to try and prove his paternity. The artist was born in 1968 to Baroness Sibylle de Celis-Longchamp. At the time, the then Prince Albert was already married to Princess Paula. Rumours about their love affair had been around since the late 90s, and the stunning royal acknowledgement comes as little surprise.
I think Albert was the last person to learn about his paternity. All of Belgium had known this for a long time. He should have admitted it back then.
He may have made a mistake in his youth, but I don't think the scandal tarnishes the royal family's image.
Even though her royal lineage has been proven, Delphine Boel is not in the line of succession for the Belgian throne. She has, however, now become one of her father's legal heirs.
Delphine Boel will be treated as a legitimate child and will have the same right as the king's other children.
Initially reluctant to submit his DNA sample, the former king finally provided it last May, after a court imposed a €5,000 fine for every day he failed to comply with the order.
Stay tuned for more updates on France 24.